The lesson that I want to go over is 3.6. And I want to say a couple things about this lesson before I start. First of all, this is probably, I wouldn't even say probably, this is the hardest lesson that we've done. It's a lesson that I can't really tell you step one, step two, step three, this is how you do it, every single problem. This is really a lesson where you're taking everything we've learned and you're kind of doing pieces of it all in one problem. So you really have to think of every single piece of information that the word problem is giving you and sort through it. These aren't easy. I don't expect you to watch this video and just bam, you got it, but you have to keep practicing, okay? The more you practice these, the better that you will get at them. So basically, I'm going to give you some strategies, I'm going to show you some problems, and then you just got to try it. And we'll kind of keep coming back, and I'll make sure that if you're still feeling stuck, I give you some extra support. So like I said, just keep practicing and don't feel frustrated if you're getting stuck. So I am looking at examples on page 95 if you would like to follow along with me. And I will just show you how to do some of these problems and we'll go from there. I also posted a video in the Google Classroom about finding unit rates. It's a Khan Academy video. Please watch it. I think it might help a little bit with certain pieces of this information, okay? So with that being said, let's look at example 1 on page 95. So John is hanging a picture. He wants to center it horizontally on the wall. The picture is 32. Get a new color. Sorry about that. The picture is 32 and a half inches long. And the wall is 120 and 3/4 inches long. So this is the picture. This is the wall. And I think that it's important for you to write down the important information. As you see, as I'm doing this, this is definitely how I solve these. Okay, so then I look and I go, how far is each edge of the wall that he should place the picture? So he really wants to get this picture kind of smack dab in the middle of this wall. And so what we want to do is, first of all, I like to draw a picture. So I see that my wall is 120 and 3/4, and I see that my picture is only 32 and a half. Now, at this point, even though you're going to see me do the math with improper fractions, if this is the type of math where you need to choose your own tools. So if your tools are decimals, then that's what you do, and you stick with your decimals. And if you lose a little bit of accuracy because you have to round something, then you better find an answer that's really close to the correct answer. Sometimes they might give you things in percents, and you're going to have to turn those to decimals. That's part of the math you're doing right now, is really just using the best tools for each word problem. And that's why I tell you it's not going to just be easy. It's not going to be here step 1, here step 2, okay, bam, you have an answer. It's going to be really you thinking about the problem and trying to decide what operations and what form to put these numbers in and what's the best way to get to the answer. So just know that even though I'm using improper fractions, this might be math that you want to use some decimals, and that's okay. Okay? So what we are actually going to do is we're going to take this 120 and 3/4 and we're going to subtract 32 and a half. That's going to tell us how much space is left over here and here. And if we have that total number, we can divide it in 2 and we know how far in on the wall each thing should be. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So I am going to take 120 and 3/4 and subtract 32 and a half. So you could be doing 120.75 minus 32.5. You could be working in improper fractions. Either way, though, when you are done with this math, you get 88 and 1/4 or 88.25. I'm not going to go over the math part because that's something I feel like we've been doing a long time, and that's really not the new stuff we're learning. So hopefully you have some strategies of how to subtract two numbers, which I know you guys do because we've been practicing it over and over again. So either improper fractions or decimals, you really could work with both this way. Okay, so I'm going to turn my 88 and 1/4 back into an improper fraction because when I actually solved these problems, I used improper fractions. So 88 times 4, 2, 3, 32, 35, plus 1, so 353 over 4. Okay, so I turned my 88 and 1/4 back into 353 over 4. I do think that you guys can get to those numbers however, however you need to. So that's kind of the freedom you have in this section, is to choose what format you want to use. Like I said, I really like improper fractions, but it might be easier with decimals, and that's okay for these more complex word problems, okay? So then we know this is the space on either side of the picture. So what we want to do is we want to cut that in half because it's like together, and that will tell us how much space on each side of the picture. So we're going to divide by 2, which we already know is really multiplying by 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to do 353 over 8, and then I'm going to do the multiplication, or the division, 353 divided by 8, 4, 32, 3, 4, 32, 1. I'm going to give myself a decimal, bring that down, 1, 8, 2, 2, 4, 5. So 44.125, and if you turn this, so I have the decimal, I also have the improper fraction, and if you turn this into a mixed number, it would be 44 1/8. Okay, some of you just took the 88, you cut it in half, made it the 44, and you cut the 1/4 in half and made it a 1/8. So I really just want you to see there's so many different ways to do these problems, and that's really what we're shooting for, is you finding the best way that works for you. So maybe you ended up with the decimal. Maybe you ended up with the mixed number. Maybe you ended up with the improper fraction. You're going to have to make a decision what you feel comfortable with, and then you're going to have to be able to see it all 3 ways, because the test might have A, B, C, D, and they're in one format. They might also just be blank, and I would accept all 3 ways. Okay? All right, let's move to the next problem. Hopefully you're seeing some of my strategies and it's making you feel a little more confident to try these problems on your own. You have to just try them. You can't just stare at them and go, oh, it's too hard, I can't do it. You've got to do something. Something. Get these numbers in a format you feel comfortable with and do something with them. Draw a picture. That's always a great strategy to start the problem. Okay? So I am at the bottom of page 95 on the Your Turn. I would love if you pause the video and try the Your Turn on page 95. Okay? Hopefully you tried it. I know it's hard, but I promise you, the more you try them and then you see my strategy, the more you start making connections between where you got stuck and how I got through that moment. Okay? So hopefully you tried it. If you did try it and you're like dying to know the answer is either 45 over 8 or 5 5/8. Okay, so if you didn't get it right, and even if you did, go ahead and watch my strategy. Okay, a 30-minute TV program, so 30 minutes, consists of 3 commercials. And each commercial is 2.5 minutes. And then in between the commercials is 4 equal length segments. And we want to know how long each of those segments are. So what I want to do, okay, is I know I have 30 minutes. So I'm going to take this and multiply. I want to know how long my commercials are. So 3 commercials, 2.5 minutes each. Remember that word each tells me I'm multiplying, unless I know my answer and I have to go backwards, in which case I'm dividing. So this time I'm multiplying because I don't know my answer. So once I figure out how much of the 30 minutes is my commercials, I'm going to subtract those 2, which means I have what's just left for my equal segments, and then I'll divide that by 4. Okay? So I'm going to do 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 halves times 3 over 1. So that's 15 halves. This is how long my commercials are. So I'm going to take my 30 minutes and subtract 15 over 2. This might be a place that I want to just know what 15 divided by 2 is. So 15 divided by 2 is really 7.5. So that might help me do my math. I could do 30 over 1 minus 15 over 2. How about I do both? I'll do both. So I could see that 15 over 2 is 7.5 and do 30 minus 7.5. I could also see that 30 over 1 minus 15 over 2. Okay, so I'm going to get the same answer here, just in 2 different forms. So this is 2, carry 5, 2, 2. So 22.5, or if I need to make this a 2, I multiply by 2, so I'm going to multiply this by 2. And 60 minus 15 is 45 over 2. And guess what? 45 over 2 is still 22.5. So this or this is how long my commercials are. However, or how long I have left after my commercials have come out of the program, sorry. So now I need to divide this by 4. So you are either, I'm erasing my work, hopefully you're following along. If you need to, pause it. So you are either doing 45 over 2 divided by 4 or 22.5 divided by 4. Okay, because I know after my commercials come out, this is how much time I have, and I have that in 4 equal segments. Okay, when they're saying 4 equal, that's kind of a big clue that I'm going to be dividing. So here I would do 45 over 2 times 1/4. Here I would actually put my numbers in. So 4, 16, oops, too small, 5, 20, bring down my 2, bring down my 5. So 6, 24, bring down 1, 2, 8, 2, 0, and 5. So 5.625 per segment, or you can do this way and go 45 divided by 8. So this works, or if you turn that back into a mixed number, it's 5 and 5/8. Okay, so depending on how you choose to do the math, you could get all those different numbers. Let me talk you through the work one more time. So look at your paper, not at me. First, find out how much the commercials take up. So that's 2.5 times 3, because there's 3 of them. Then subtract that from the 30. That tells you how long of like actual TV show you have. And then because we know it's 4 equal segments, divide by 4. And you could get any of those 4 answers, and I would take that. Okay? All right, let's look at another one. And I can check my time. I'm actually going to pause and make a second video just because YouTube cuts me off after 15 minutes. So just so you know, we're going to be looking at page 96. We're going to do example 2, and then we're going to do the your turn on page 97. And then we're going to do the your turn on page 98. So if you wanted to try those, you can, but I am about to do them in the next video. Okay, see you soon.